Hey, welcome to the Crazy J Podcast Show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time to talk about your sports. Today, folks, we're going to talk about a couple of controversy things. We got to talk about this guy. Uh, Sherrone Moore has been fired from the University of Michigan. And guess what? It's misconduct with in an inappropriate relationship with someone on the staff of Michigan. I don't understand why these clauses are there on there. It's obvious that people are going to have relationships with each other when they work together. Uh, is it appropriate? Yeah, of course it is. If you're married and have kids and everything else with it, is it the most unnatural thing to happen if two people are single? Probably not. But I don't understand the clause behind these agreements about these coaches. I don't understand why these coaches put themselves in the situation that they do. He's now going to be 83 million or 84 million dollars in the hole because he got fired with this contract that he has with Michigan. We remind you, this is 2 years ago that he just got hired after Jim Harbaugh left for his own tobacco. But this is something that's not surprising. Again, with Michigan State, they have Mel Tucker, sexual harassment of a person who talked about harassment at work and in the field and in work environment. Then you had the other guy from Ohio State, Urban Meyer, for battering and assault of his wife. That didn't go so well. So it seems a pattern with the Big Ten. The Big Ten has a pattern. Sherrone Moore got fired for that reason of battery suspicions of battery in a township, and then he gets arrested 4 hours later, about 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night, and then they bring him back to the township that assault took place. But but what is it about these coaches? What is it about? Why do we have so many coaches who have this egotistic personality that when they get paid, they get the big bucks. Their their brain cells wash out. I don't know what it is. You just have to realize that it's kind of you have to realize fantasy and reality are two different things. All right, there's two things that are going to make sure you're going to die. There's and you're going to pay taxes. Tell you the day you die. And third, one of those things that is that you're probably always going to get caught with adultery. You always will. Someone's going to leak it out. Someone's going to talk about it. Gossip behind doors, so on and so forth. This explains why uh, Bryce Underwood was never developing as a quarterback. And you take the first game of Bryce Underwood, didn't look great. You thought maybe it's his first 2, 3 games of the year, but obviously playing against Ohio State, we get crushed, and he's still not throwing the football that well. So what does this mean for Bryce Underwood? Bryce Underwood is probably going to run out of Michigan. I'm not sure if you go to Lane Kiffin with LSU because they have so many quarterbacks there. Uh, but the development of Michigan, that's going to be the key issue. We got this Biff Poggi, the guy that was assistant head coach to Sherrone Moore. But in reality, this is something that uh, now we're going to take 2 or 3 steps back after having signing day, and you're probably going to lose to Ohio State for the next 2, 3 years in a row. And this is something that Michigan fans do not want to hear and talk about the losing streak to Ohio State. Remember, Michigan has lost to Ohio State 8 years in a row. All right. So now you have one game in a row that we lost to Ohio State. What does that say for the following years? What does this say about a recruiting class? Who does Michigan gather? Some people are putting John Harbaugh to come to Michigan because he's a Michigan guy, but I don't see him leaving the NFL. I don't see him uh, really caring about college football. I think that for him, he'll probably stay at Baltimore. He'll probably go to a team like the Steelers if Mike Tomlin leaves for whatever reason that his era will soon to be over. Uh, but you know what? There's just something that a lot of people think that if John Harbaugh comes to Michigan, he'll have two things over his brother: winning the Super Bowl and now winning the national championship at Michigan. If he comes to Michigan, can't put my money on it. They also said Brian Kelly might talk about coming to Michigan. Chip Kelly. I would like to see John Gruden, the old Oakland Raiders head coach, Vegas or whatever you want to call him now. I would like to have him come to Michigan because he's just a football guy, football grit, loves to talk about football, coaching, everything else with it. Um, and I think that, you know, he seems to have a good relationship with someone like Dan Campbell, who's 45 minutes away from Ann Arbor. So you could see those two coaches bouncing ideas off each other Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon, just chipping around the city of Detroit or Ann Arbor or whatever. I know that that's a little far fetched for that, folks. But going on to the next story I want to talk about is let's go to talk about Tarik Skubal. There's been word on the Detroit Tigers talking to the Los Angeles Dodgers about trading for Tarik Skubal. And Tarik Skubal is a native to California. Not really sure what his team was, probably the Dodgers when he was a little kid. But I'm going to tell you this: if he goes to the Dodgers, I'm probably not going to watch any Detroit Tigers baseball this year, just for the sake of the Illich family messing things up. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't want Tarik Skubal to be traded. I think this is kind of bonkers that we're not paying the guy for 4 or 5 years. And basically, if Illich signs off on this contract, it will happen. But the Dodgers want him to sign for like 7, 8 years in a row with them. But I can't see why would you pay a guy who's already 28 years old. I think he's already got a Tommy John surgery once or twice, and then and then by the time he ends his career in the Dodger land, he'd be like 35 years old. But I'm gonna say if he goes to the Dodgers, I'm not gonna watch the Tigers. I think this is I think this is bad for baseball. You'll have a rotation of five starters in Dodgers and the best players in Dodgerland, and it's not going to be fun to watch. If Tarik Skubal goes to the Mets or the Padres or some other team that's relatively good or better than Detroit at the time of when we trade him, I could see that. But I do not want to see him go to the Dodgers. If you agree with me, boycott Detroit Tigers. If Detroit Tigers trade Tarik Skubal, I think I'm not even going to get that FanDuel Detroit because there's no reason for me to have it during the summertime because I won't be watching the Tigers. I'll be watching the Padres. I'll be watching the Angels, the Boston Red Sox, the New York Yankees. I don't care, but I'm not going to watch the Tigers have another bad year and get rid of their ace. Off what? Because you can't pay the guy? I mean, this is as close as I'm going to get to you about anyone that's over the age of 45 years old or even 40 years old. No, 45. This would be an example of getting rid of Jack Morris in 1983 if he was on his last year of his contract and we wanted to trade him for prospects. All right. And then your best pitcher on that team would be Dan Petrie. And I have nothing against Dan Petrie and his status quo of being that type of pitcher, but Jack Morris was our ace. He was our stronghold. He was the guy that would go out there and pitch 7, 8, 9 innings and just dominate. Now, if you get rid of Tarik Skubal, we only have Casey Mize. Okay, Jack Flaherty, you never know what kind of guy you're going to get in the regular season. In the playoffs, it seems even to be kind of foggy, not really there at all. Casey Mize, and then you got to wait around for Reese Olson with his finger. You don't know how that's going to go, and then you know, I mean, those two guys, three guys. So you're going to get Casey Mize, Reese Olson, and Jack Flaherty. I mean, and you don't have an ace. And I get it. Every Detroit Tiger analytical person says, "Well, we're building for the future." This is baseball. You build for like 2 or 3 years, and then your team is kind of like eliminated, depleted. All right, because of free agency, a free agency. Okay, so you only have 2 years left in baseball. The Dodgers and the Yankees, they're always going to have that money to spend for players. So they have that uh, internal clock that never ends. But when you have a smart market like Detroit or like Baltimore, Baltimore just signed Pete Alonso, first baseman for the Mets. Uh, and the Orioles have a good catcher. I'm not really sure about the pitching. Yeah, it's kind of iffy a little bit there, but you know what? With Pete Alonso's contract, let's say he's signed for about 5 years. I don't even know 5 years. Let's say he's signed up for 5 years. You only have like 5 years left, and let's say the rookie contract, second year contract of the catcher of the Orioles, he's on his second, third year, so he's going to be a free agent. So you're going to lose that guy if you're Baltimore Orioles, and then you down to back to point zero, point A, or box A again. So in baseball, you play to win now because that's when your team is hot. Okay, like Toronto Blue Jays, they're not going to try to rebuild the team for another 5 years. They're going to try to win it next year. Seattle Mariners is another team. They're a team that was hot coming into the end of the year last year. They made it to their American League championship game. They lost to Toronto Blue Jays, but they're not going to think about 4 or 5 years. They're going to think about right now. They're going to think about Cal Riley in there. They're going to get probably another pitcher. And you know what? You got Rodriguez, the outfielder for the Seattle Mariners. I mean, you're going to, they should, Seattle and Toronto should be uh, in the top news of making into the World Series. And then it should be Detroit, maybe Cleveland, stuff like that. But Detroit needs to win now. They need to get their players. They got Riley Green, they got Spencer Torkelson, that they got Meadows outfield. I mean, and they got, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Gerber Torres resigned with Detroit. I think they did. I don't know if he did or not. But you got a young team, and this team has got a niche. And when you got Casey Mize and Jack Flaherty, Tarik Skubal is your alpha male, and he's going to be the guy that can keep the mold together. He's the guy that you want to keep on a team together. If he goes, then everyone goes. Okay, that's what's probably going to happen. If Tarik Skubal goes and Detroit Tigers have a really bad year, Riley Green could just like, I want to opt. I'm out of contract. I don't even know if he has a contract this year, next year, whatever. But could Spencer Torkelson. Spencer Torkelson, which he's got to prove himself this year to make himself more tradable, or may put that talk into the objective to be traded. But if he goes, if Tarik Skubal goes, then the rest of the team goes. Jack If Jack Morris left Detroit in '83, Detroit would have never made it to the World Series in '84. It would have been over. Dan Petrie would have been gone. Um, Lou Whitaker, Alan Trammell would have been still there, but not. I mean, you can't rely on a second baseman and shortstop to be your prime hitters, right? Uh, Evans, the older uh, first baseman that they got from '83 from the Padres or something like that. But that's the thing. Tarik Skubal is your alpha male, and he's going to keep the team together. And if you trade him, he's going to be gone, and the rest of the team will start to diminish. And I can't say enough. Baseball, your team is hot now. They're going to be hot for the next 1 or 2 years because there's so many different teams out there. There's 32 teams, 162 games. It's not a guarantee. It's not like 81 games in the NBA. It's not like the NFL. You only have 17 games in a year. You know, you just don't have that. Uh, there's just too much activity going on during MLB season. So there you go. I'm going to also uh, talk about Detroit Pistons. Now, Detroit Pistons, they're hot. And there's been talk about Jalen Duren is going to get signed for about $185, $185 million for how many years? I think that'd be a good signing. I think Detroit should stay away from Anthony Davis as much as possible. No reason to bring Anthony Davis to Detroit. He is out of touch, out of sync. Uh, Youth for Detroit Pistons is now. Now, I will say this. Now, I like Jaden Ivey, and I thought that he could be a really, really good player and really like go get him, point a shooting guard to come to Cade Cunningham. But I will say this: I know it takes time to get your knee and your knee back to 100%. I know this is his first half year coming back from the injury, but you know what thing that he still struggles? He still struggles to find his identity. Jaden Ivey still finds problems with finding his way in Detroit. You got uh, uh, Ron Holland. You got uh, you just got a couple other guys. You got Sasser coming back, Marcus Sasser, and then you also have uh, Jenkins, the phenomenal player from the G League that was played under Coach Rick Pitino. He's hot. And everyone on that team is playing real well. Sir Thompson is playing real well. So there's not a lot of rotation for Jaden Ivey. And I think that the problem with Detroit right now is that they have a lot of guys that can play. Paul Reed is playing more. Isaiah Stewart is playing really well off the bench, blocking shots, grabbing rebounds. So everyone's playing well, but Jaden Ivey is still that shooting guard that you want to have next to Cade Cunningham. And you want to, the biggest pet peeve for me about Jaden Ivey is this: his release point on his shooting is still too low. And I wish that someone like Larry Bird would take a side of him and say, look, you need to you need to move your hand and your arm up a little bit more so you have better release point to the shot. And then the second thing I really have issues with Detroit with Jaden Ivey is that he stands around too much. He watched Cade Cunningham dribble. He'll watch Cade throw it to Holland or Jenkins. Now Jenkins and Ivey won't ever be on the same court unless Cade Cunningham is off the court. But a lot of it, the problem that I see with Jaden Ivey is that he stands too much. Like there's not enough movement on him for pick and rolls or even double picks from Jalen Duren or Isaac Stewart or even Duncan Robinson. There's just no movement. Even Duncan Robinson is moving without the ball better than Jaden Ivey. And this is something that I wish that more NBA teams did. Is instead of just trying to shoot the 3-pointer to set up for the 3-pointer, set up where your shooting guard is moving without the ball. And then that way he'll get open about 15, 17 footers. And if he gets the ball in the rotation, then someone like Duncan Robinson, who is probably going to be sitting by the 3-point line, he's going to be moving along with him. And then Jaden Ivey can dish the ball out to Duncan Robinson. Or Jaden Ivey can dish it back to Jalen Duren. But this is one thing I think that uh, that's going to probably happen. Detroit will probably end up trading Jaden Ivey in some form or shape. But we're only going to trade him if he has any value of scoring points. But who do you get? I mean, you don't really. Detroit really doesn't need another big guy. Could we replace Paul Reed? Maybe because of his muscle mass. Maybe. But again, sometimes with sports, it's about the chemistry of the team. And a lot of the guys may not fit in classical teams like the Lakers with Magic and Cooper and Byron Scott, or the Michael Jordan era with Bill Cartwright and John Paxson and Scottie Pippen and Greg Hodges, or even the old Detroit Piston team with Dennis Rodman and Bill Laimbeer and Buddha and Edwards. That's what I'm talking about, the center. I mean, look at the Detroit Pistons teams. We didn't always have the most athletic uh, athletes on our team. We didn't have the strongest guys on the team. We had role players. And that's something that Paul Reed plays real well. Paul Reed, Isaiah Stewart plays really well as a role player. Duncan Robinson, he plays a pretty well shooting guard. He's been missing a lot of 3 pointers, but step in a little bit more. Step in to hit your 2 pointers so that you're not giving up the ball one and done. That's something that we got to think about. But there you go, folks. I think that's going to be about it. If you like this podcast, you like the show, you like the entertainment, follow me on YouTube, Patreon, and wherever you get your download your podcast. I'm also on Spotify and wherever you have in Apple. Uh, Peace out. I'm out of here. Cheers.